Welcome to Platinum Review. This is unlike your other video reviews where we aren't just going to analyse the game on its own merits, but also the experience of completing its PlayStation Trophy challenges to 100% and collecting that shiny blue Platinum trophy if of course the game has one. Is the journey to Platinum the game fun? Is it grindy? Is it broken? We're going deeper into these games than I ever had before in my reviews, and hopefully we'll find some games that surpass all expectations. I thought with the release of God of War Ragnarok, there's no better time than to go back to one of my favourite entries in the series, and the bookend of the previous Greek saga, God of War 3. One of my favourite games of all time, making it perfect to kickstart this new review format. This is the remastered version on PS4. God of War 3 loads with this incredible cutscene, bringing you all up to date on the events of the previous two games in this visually stunning art style reminiscent of ancient Greek pottery artwork, enhanced by God of War's magnificent score over the top. So prior to this game, God of War began in 2005 on the PS2, which saw Kratos, this tragic Spartan general, champion over the god of war Ares, who had Kratos tricked into taking the life of his own wife and daughter. And after killing the God of War, Kratos takes his place on Olympus. In the sequel, God of War 2 from 2007, Kratos was killed by his father Zeus, king of the Olympians, due to Zeus's fear that Kratos may one day overthrow him. However, his need for vengeance on the gods gave Kratos the willpower to climb out of the Underworld itself, rally the enemies of the gods, the Titans, and march upon Olympus, ending on a cliffhanger, which is where our God of War 3 begins. The main menu gives us everything we need to know. We get a stunning view of Kratos' very angry face in the beautiful God of War 3 graphics. A storm rages on in the background. This is going to see the end of some very powerful gods, and the terrific musical score pounding over the top tells us this will be a finale to remember. So, God of War 3 has 35 trophies that we're going to collect, a pretty nice number, and roughly 90% of these I'll probably get on the first playthrough if I take it slow and steady. So first I'm going to play the game through on Titan mode, which is the game's hard mode. I've got to do this for one of the difficulty trophies, and let's get to Kratos' vengeance. Zeus starts us off with this monologue of epic proportions. He assembles his gods of Olympus against Kratos and his giant elemental titans. I still think this is one of the most badass video game intros of all time. The writing, Zeus's voice acting is thunderous, the cinematography rivals Hollywood blockbuster movies. The anticipation is at an all-time high. The previous two games have been building up to this, and God of War 3 wastes absolutely no time in getting to this climax. Straight out of the gate, it's time to face the god of the sea, Poseidon. So for the first half of this battle, I'm going to be climbing all over Gaia, and I'm going to want to quickly refamiliarise myself with the controls. God of War 3 plays just like the previous two entries, which was actually nice, as those two games already nailed the combat. You've got light and heavy combos with square and triangle respectively. Kratos also has the golden fleece on his arm, which lets us not only block attacks, but also parry and counter if we press at the right time, and this is going to be crucial in playing through this on Titan mode. I've also got a special magic attack with R2, and one of the most useful dodge rolls in gaming mapped to the right stick. So you don't control the camera in these games, and that's nice as we're always being shown the whole battlefield. Viewpoint is one less thing we have to worry about. Okay, so on to one of the first trophies I can easily get is ripping an Olympus sentry in half. Olympus sentries are the zombie / warrior-like enemies, and they litter the entire game, so this is quite unmissable. We rip them in half by grabbing one with the circle button and then pressing triangle to pull them in two. Very satisfying first trophy. Another simple enemy related trophy that I'll be going for throughout this game is Gut 3 Centaur Generals. The first one you face is during this opening section. They've got a lot of health and some high damaging attacks, so using the parry system is a must. Important for the trophy is we don't kill these by draining their health fully, but big enemies hit a stagger phase just before their health is depleted, so we can initiate a takedown with Circle, which will flash over their head, and by doing this we gut the Centaur, and the other two will be later on in the game. I also just want to point out this intro also has some spectacular use of camera angles. The camera is used to really showcase the size of this game. Giant titans, humongous mountaintops, fantastical gods like Poseidon's ultimate water form. It's all just fantastic work by Sony Santa Monica. Poseidon's boss fight is a lot of spectacle. One great tactic I found is when a boss is setting up for an attack and I thought I didn't have enough time to roll away, then you can use your magic ability, which gives you seconds of invincibility frames, and this really helps survive some of the more higher damaging attacks. Now Poseidon isn't as difficult as some of the bosses to come. Kratos knocks him out of his water form, and it ends with Poseidon's eyes getting gouged out and his death causes the sea levels to rise. Poseidon trophy achieved. However, as Kratos and Gaia reach the peak of Olympus, they get attacked by Zeus and we plummet to the very bottom of the Underworld, and this is where God of War 3's true adventure begins. It's time to climb back up to the peak of Olympus. The next section is the realm of Hades, a place of death and fire and also some great upcoming battles. This area will also begin the collectibles to find. There's 12 total Gorgon eyes to collect, which increases your health bar, 12 Minotaur horns, which increases your item usage, and finally 12 Phoenix feathers, which increases your magic bar. These actually aren't too difficult to find thanks to the linear level design. They'll usually just be hiding out of plain sight or on a fairly easy to find second route. They're in these big chests, so collecting these wasn't all too difficult. There's also 10 collectible items in the game called Godly Possessions, and these basically unlock cheats for use in your subsequent playthroughs. Again, these are usually just off the beaten path, hidden in plain sight. You can get them all in one playthrough. Continuing on through the Underworld, I found the first item, the Bow of Apollo, used with holding the L2 button. This bow makes good use of flying enemies and can be charged to set an enemy on fire, which is also the task of another trophy. Set 100 enemies on fire with the Bow of Apollo. This is a nice easy one to get, just a little grindy, so that's another 2 trophies. A little further on I got to this nice and simple puzzle, which I had to use an explosive bramble pot to fly up to the next path. But if you open this door before you fly up, you'll discover the not really all that secret Hades Arms room, which does get you another trophy, and there's also a phoenix feather in here and a ton of red orbs if you kill all the hands. Now this is a good time to talk about 2 trophies surrounding weapon upgrades. Pressing options takes you to a weapon upgrade screen, and this is where you use your red orbs you collect from chests and dead enemies to upgrade your weapons to unlock new moves and stat bonuses. There's 2 trophies tied to this system. One is nice and easy, all I had to do was purchase 1 weapon upgrade and you can get this very early on. The second is to unlock all of the weapon upgrades. To do this I started just killing every enemy that I came across, not passing on any of them, finding every chest and also smashing every little pot that I came across, as even those contain a few red orbs. Every little helps, and by the end I had just enough to gain all of the weapon upgrades. A new enemy type introduced in the Underworld is the Hound Dog, and a trophy I had tied to these is kick 50 of them. For this, every hound I came across, I pressed the grab button, and just like ripping an Olympus sentry in half, but with the hounds, Kratos will kick them across the screen. This is another easy one to get. Another thing you'll notice when ripping apart enemies in gruesome ways is that Kratos will get covered in blood. There's also a trophy tied to this, which is cover Kratos in 500 buckets of blood. This again is pretty easy. It just required me killing lots of enemies and I had acquired it way before the game had finished. The next boss is Hades himself, the god of the Underworld. This is a fantastic boss battle. Hades has a wide range of attacks he's going to throw at you, using enemy souls, long-range claw attacks, AoE chain attacks, so the dodge roll is going to be your best friend in this fight. Use it a lot. Upon defeating Hades, the souls of the deceased wreak havoc upon the Underworld, and you acquire the Claws of Hades, your next new weapon, which also has a trophy tied to it. When having the claws equipped, the magic button allows you to summon enemy souls, just as Hades did in his boss battle. Upgrading the claws weapon level will unlock more souls for you to summon, so completing the weapon upgrades trophy made this one fairly simple to get. There's some great enemies to summon, and also just using the claws is a blast. They have these wide attacks and change Kratos' roll animation to him using the claws to drag himself across the ground. Super awesome animation detail. So this trophy was a lot of fun to unlock. Another good trophy to acquire at this point with the Claws of Hades equipped is one that seems like it would be quite difficult to achieve. Perform a 1000 hit combo. Now, trying to get this by fighting enemies with standard combo chains, well, good luck to you. What I think is an easy way is to spam the Claw of Hades grab move, which has you grab an enemy and release souls that give you a few hits. But the damage is pretty weak, so it allows you to build a big enough hit count before all your enemies are dead. I spammed this as soon as I got the Claws of Hades, and I had one of the more difficult trophies earned very early on. After there, we get out of the Underworld and are back on our way up Mount Olympus. We see Gaia again and give her a taste of her own medicine, tearing her hand off as she plummets down the mountain, and this actually gains us a trophy. It also shatters our alliance with the Titans, so now not only have we got the gods against us, but also some very peed off giants. Speaking of gods, our next Olympian to feel the wrath of Kratos is the sun god Helios. This guy doesn't actually have a battle, as he's busy fighting a fiery titan in the background, which looks absolutely incredible by the way, whilst we target him with a catapult and smash his carriage down. There's also a first battle with a chimera, a mini-boss type enemy that is a mix of a lion, a goat and a snake, a very awesome enemy to fight. This game has so many good creatures to fight. So Helios, we get over to him by hijacking some harpies, we take out his guardian Cyclops by tearing its goddamn eyeball out of its socket, and then Helios is all ours. Well, to continue forth, we kind of need his head. Goodbye Helios, hello head. Complete the button mash to rip his head off, and Helios is defeated, next trophy earned. So the head of Helios becomes a new item, similar to our Bow of Apollo, and as well as opening new doors and revealing hidden chests, it also has a stun attack when holding down the button to use it, and there's a trophy tied to this. Blind 100 enemies with the head of Helios. Again, it's a little grindy, as it's not really a time efficient item to use, as you are open to be hit with not much offense when having it equipped, but I decided to just use it when enemies are spawning in and use it consistently. The trophy does pop not too far into the rest of the game, as there's always plenty of enemies to stun with it. Not long after Helios is defeated, we'll come across Hermes, the messenger god, who has superhuman speed. One thing that's best to bring up here is the sheer glorious pacing of God of War 3. From beginning to end, this is a bombastic gauntlet against the gods of Olympus, and it never ceases to slow down. Sure, there are puzzles and times to read up on lore and cutscenes to advance the narrative, but there's no long stretches of repetition, no arduous side quests or farming XP. It's just set piece after set piece after set piece, and it makes God of War 3 one of the most enjoyable to replay and enjoy again and again. If I'm not mistaken, this is like the 6th or 7th time I've played this game now. So once we get to Hermes, we chase him through the streets of the city of Olympia, which is a very cool set piece. You just love the determination and drive in Kratos. Even someone possessing godly speed, Kratos is still like, yeah, he can't outrun me. We send a catapult Hermes' way, which damages him and enables us to finish him off. I found Hermes to be probably the easiest boss fight in the game, and once we acquire his boots, we get our next trophy. On to the next boss. God of War 3 literally doesn't slow down. Hercules, the son of Zeus, which makes Hercules Kratos' half-brother. I love this fight for a few reasons. It's in a gladiatorial-like arena, the soundtrack is once again epic, Hercules' mother Hera gets drunk from the crowd above us, which I find hilarious, and just shows how vain the Olympians really are, and also the battle itself between these two monsters of men is undoubtedly awesome. Hercules wants to defeat Kratos because he sees him as a brotherly rival. Kratos, however, just sees Hercules as an obstacle in his way. We rip off Hercules' gauntlets, which are some of the best weapons in the franchise, and we make pancakes out of Hercules' face with them. Trophy acquired. That is one epic fight. So now we have the Nemean Cestus, and these are really high damaging gauntlets with close and long range attacks. They also allow us to smash shiny blue things like enemy shields for example, and they have this really satisfying sound effect when they get swung through the air. The next trophy I acquired was the series staple sexual minigame. This is one that is very hard to miss. We come across the goddess of beauty Aphrodite, and you can either choose to pass her by or join her in bed, and in doing so and completing the QTE, we get the next trophy. Venturing on, the smith god Hephaestus tasks us with getting a stone, which is actually a trap as the stone is in the gut of the great Titan Chronos. On our way to find Chronos, we'll come across the final centaur general we need to gut, which gets us that nice and simple trophy. There's also a very light puzzle on the way to Chronos, which is a large gate. Just push the blocks in and use the harpies to climb to the top and open the gates to gain this next one. Okay, now we're on to Chronos. This is Zeus's father locked away in the Underworld. He wants revenge on us for murdering Gaia, and Kratos wants the stone he's been sent to collect, so it's time to face Chronos. This is definitely one of the most impressive parts of God of War 3, especially for when it originally came out on the PS3, as the scale of this level is astonishing. We climb all over Chronos as he's trying to shake us off, we pull his goddamn nails off, we blind him with the head of Helios, and impale his own chains through his head. Even devouring Kratos isn't enough. Instead of taking pity on the enormous Titan, Kratos delivers him a final blow that collapses Chronos into the abyss. And after that spectacle, another boss trophy well earned. Next we meet back up with Hera. Kratos breaks her neck, and for the next puzzle we use her corpse as a weight for us getting through the gardens. I just find that hilarious that Kratos would do that. This puzzle really showcases God of War 3's award-winning level design, having a puzzle all about perception and viewing the garden from the correct angle to scale up to the top. Solving this puzzle earns us another glorious trophy. The next and final big section of the game is the Labyrinth, and this nets us 3 fairly easy trophies if we pay attention and are fast. So first we get ambushed by the next boss, a giant scorpion which guards the labyrinth. The scorpion is covered in this blue material that we can destroy with our Nemean Cestus. It's just going to be a matter of dodging its front attacks and claw swipes and just trying to stay at its side where we are just out of its reach, which is the best place to be for this boss. Upon defeating this we get our next trophy for acquiring the Boreas Ice Storm, which allows us to continue into the labyrinth. After defeating the scorpion, I had to not die or fail in the labyrinth once, as if I did, that's a trophy completely missed. So I created a new save and bested the labyrinth. If you've played the first God of War game on PS2, that has a much more difficult platforming and enemy challenges in its final section, but the labyrinth can still be pretty tricky. There's a section where you have to fight some tough enemies whilst the floor of the room has spikes raising that can one-hit kill you, so you've got to be really paying attention to the floor and parrying as much as you can. And another part that's a little tricky is saving Pandora from getting killed by beating 2 platform sections before she dies. Again, it might take a few tries until you've got it nailed down, but spam X when climbing to move quicker and timing jumps correctly is a must. But once I beat the labyrinth without dying and saved Pandora, that was 2 more trophies earned. So we've just bested Labyrinth and all the gods are defeated except for Zeus. It's on to the final portion of God of War 3. We're back at the 3 judges of the Underworld and this next fight is fairly tough. It's Cerberus and some satyrs, but working on the Cerberus first and then the 2 satyrs was the surefire way to win. After this we can smash the judges and then their chain with our Nemean cestus and fly all the way back up to face Zeus. Now Zeus is a brilliant villain and even at the end he tries to trick Kratos but it's no use. Kratos has set out for vengeance and that's what he will get.
Your pathetic attempt for atonement from the family you slaughtered has caused nothing but havoc on Olympus. Look around at what you have done.
I see only what I have come to destroy.
Taking pity on you has been my greatest mistake, Kratos. Just as taking pity on this thing will prove to be your greatest mistake.
This has nothing to do with her!
It has everything to do with her!
Put her down!
As you wish.
Zeus has 3 phases in this game, a really fun 2D fighting game like phase, and then you'll fight him in a little arena outside, and then Gaia interrupts and the final phase is fought inside her near her heart. Zeus is most certainly the most difficult boss fight in the game, especially when you fight him inside Gaia, as he can create clones of himself and they all deliver high amounts of damage. Plus it's a very small combat arena for quite a big fight, so you don't have a lot of room to maneuver. But once you get his health down enough, you've got a QTE and then it's the Blade of Olympus through the chest of Zeus and into the heart of Gaia. And then back on land we get to punch Zeus into oblivion. Trophy earned. Now we can bask in our win against the Olympian gods. After his triumph over Zeus, Kratos is once more visited by the spirit of Athena, who wants Kratos' godly power for herself. However, Kratos drives the blade through his abdomen, supposedly killing him. Beat the game trophy and Titan mode trophy earned. God of War 3's ending is just so depressing and it works so well for this tragic character. Kratos gets no happy ending, Greece is in turmoil, spirits ravage the lands, it's likely everyone is dead in Greece. And as we learn from the future games, Kratos travels up to Norway to get as far away as possible from his past. Yes, he does survive in an after credits scene. And that brings us to the end of the campaign, and now I have one last trophy to gain. After beating the game, you unlock a challenge mode called the Challenge of Olympus, and that is what we need to complete next. So there's 7 challenges, and while they are tough, if you're a God of War veteran and bested the previous 2 games, the challenge isn't really anything more than what those offered. So the first one is quite simple, don't let 50 enemies spawn. Solution really is to just keep grabbing enemies and throwing them around, knocking them off the sides. Challenge 2 is beating all enemies without using weapons. Again, we want to use Kratos' grab with the circle to our advantage, and this shouldn't be too much trouble. Challenge 3 is a little bit more tougher. This requires us to be turned to stone 10 times without dying. Basically, we don't want to get crushed when we're breaking out of stone. Grabbing the Gorgons gets us petrified quickly and then we can just break out. Don't jump, as if we jump as we get petrified, then the landing will instantly kill us. I think this is a pretty ridiculous one, but challenge modes in games are pretty ridiculous always anyway. Next one is fairly easy, as we are against the Minotaur and some smaller grunts. We just need to defeat them without getting piled on or hit by the Minotaur charge. Challenge 5 I'd say is the easiest. For this we just need to keep knocking enemies out of the arena. We have a Cyclops, so defeat that and climb onto it and we can easily win. 6 is also nice and simple, killing Cyclopses multiplies them and we just need 5 to spawn, so keep rolling and dodging their attacks as quickly as possible, defeat the Cyclopses until the challenge is complete. Okay, last challenge, a little tougher. We got to destroy all 30 pots before the timer runs out. Best to use the L1 square move where Kratos spins with his blades and just clear the last few up. This is difficult only due to the time being quite short, but with enough tries it can be easily beatable. And that is the Challenge of Olympus trophy earned. And with that completes God of War 3 Platinum acquired. God of War 3 was just the perfect game to kickstart this new Platinum review series, as not only is it an outstanding video game experience, a terrific finale to the God of War Greek saga, a musical tour de force, and a graphical achievement for the PlayStation 3, but it's also one of the most enjoyable Platinums to attain. There isn't any gripes I really have with this Platinum. I mean, Titan mode is very challenging, but there is even a harder difficulty known as Chaos mode, and that doesn't have a trophy tied to it, thank God, so having Titan is enough of a challenge. Challenge of the Gods is also a little ridiculous when you first give it a go, but eventually they're just pretty simplistic compared to previous God of War challenge modes. Everything else is pretty readily obtainable on just one playthrough, with not a whole lot of grinding involved, and the game itself is just a pleasure to play. God of War 3 gets a new Don Critic rating of 10 out of 10 would platinum again.